Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Second hour of the More Money Show. So thank you so much for joining. Boy, we've had a busy afternoon already. Had a wonderful interview with one of my favorite people in Washington and in politics, the great former Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, who is just filled with wisdom. And I'm just so thrilled that I was able to have him carve out some time and come onto the show. And now I have another good friend coming on, Ralph Reed. You all know Ralph Reed from Faith and Freedom Foundation. He does an amazing job. He and I have worked together in the trenches, 30, 35 years together. And so there's a bunch of things I've wanted to ask Ralph about. He's one of the most astute political minds I know. So let me just start with this, Ralph. I know you want to talk about this AI issue, and I want to talk with you about that too. But before we get into that, what is your take about the big, beautiful bill? I say we have to pass this. What are you hearing?
Well, as you know, Steve, I was greatly privileged to join a coalition letter with you and Grover Norquist at Americans for Tax Reform, Alfredo Ortiz at Job Creators, many others. Mm-hmm. But, Steve, we did it as a socially conservative organization.
Yep.
And a lot of people would say, well, why in the world would a, pro-life, pro-family, kind of culturally conservative organization care as much about passing this tax cut as everybody else? And the answer is because if we don't pass it, Steve, it's a roughly $5 trillion tax increase.
Right.
It's the largest tax increase in American history. And I'm sure you've already been covering this, and so I do not want to insult the intelligence of your listeners. But people need to understand that this bogus Congressional Budget Office finding
$2.5
trillion is going to increase the deficit by $2.5 trillion is based on a completely false premise.
Yes.
It's a false premise of public policy, which is this. The current Trump tax cut is set to expire on December 31st of this year.
Yes.
Therefore, they argue that current law will be no tax cut. Therefore, if you cut taxes, you're exploding the deficit. That's not true. Under no circumstances would any president of either party or any Congress of either party allow these tax cuts to expire. Even Joe Biden, appealing to the radical left in an election year, was advocating a slight increase in the corporate rate, an increase, but not all the way to where it was. And he was for the top rate going up. He wasn't going to touch the lower rates. He wasn't going to touch the child tax credit. He wasn't touching anything else. So the baseline assumption is not that there won't be a tax cut. It's the only issue, Steve, and nobody's a better advocate of this than you. The only issue is the tax cut going to be a bunch of giveaways like Biden and the Democrats would do, or will it be a lower rates, pro-growth, supply side, pro-jobs tax cut?
Yeah.
And that doesn't even get into things like securing the border, the funding for the wall, and everything else. So we've got to pass this tax cut. It is the highest priority. I am in Washington every week meeting
I
with
know you are.
leadership, meeting with members, and I urge every one of your listeners, even if it's somebody that isn't going to vote for it if Jesus comes back, even if it's somebody who's already in the camp, let them hear from you. Email them, text them, call their office. People need to hear from you. Yes, even people from New York.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at Friskies.com or visit your local store.
I think you're on mute.
Workday is starting to sound the same.
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Llegaron los nuevos McCrispy Strips, listos para aventurarse en la mezcla de mayo ketchup, la barbecue que quedó en el fondo de la cajita, Hot Fudge Sundae y en la nueva Creamy Chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Los nuevos McCrispy Strips, ahora en McDonald's. Ba 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 ba.
Well said. And by the way, on the first hour of the show, Ralph, I mentioned the fact that, you're quite right about the tax provisions of this bill, but excuse me, I would argue this is one of the most conservative pieces of legislation maybe ever. It has stuff like, requirements for work for welfare, something all people are certainly in favor of, gets rid of the electric vehicle mandate requiring people to buy electric cars. It opens up federal lands for oil and gas and drilling.
It secures the border.
It secures the border. All these things. Oh, it gets rid of Biden's illegal student loan program. I could go on and on, but it's not just a tax cut. There's amazing things. Oh, school choice, something you and I have worked on, Ralph, for 30 years. This directs federal money to parents and school districts and gets rid of the blob in Washington. So there's a lot of really positive things in this bill.
Well, and on my side of the ball, Steve, I know not every one of your listeners, this is their most important issue, but for faith and freedom, it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
It ends the taxpayer funding of abortion through massive subsidies to Planned Parenthood. And even if you're pro-choice, you shouldn't be in favor of forced taxpayer funding of abortion.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I've always thought, how can you say you're pro-choice and for taxpayers having to pay for abortions? It's outrageous. So, good discussion, Ralph, but I want to get into this really critical issue that you brought to my attention about artificial intelligence and technology. You and I both agree, I think all of our listeners do, that the United States has got to dominate the artificial intelligence race and the robotics race, just like we won the internet race and dominated that industry. And I'm worried, and you are, about what's going on with this. So will you explain what's going wrong with the AI race and what we need to do about this?
Well, it's critical, Steve, because it isn't just what happened in the 90s on a bipartisan basis, where there was an agreement codified in the Telecommunications Act of 1996, passed by the Newt Gingrich Congress and signed into law by Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton,
that we would let the internet flourish, that it would not be taxed, that we wouldn't be taxing the internet. It would be tax-free. We would reward innovation. And that was a bipartisan decision. And what happened as a result? Social media, search, everything else online is dominated by the United States because the EU and others regulate it.
We have 6 of our companies, Amazon, Google, Meta, these great, incredible companies are the dominant companies in the world in the internet. And I want to make sure that we're number one in AI. But I'm worried that this is going to get messed up by government. So what do we need to be doing?
The danger is that there's a faction in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
That they call themselves effective altruists. And what it really is a rebranding of anti-capitalism. They say that artificial intelligence should not be developed for purposes of profit. Well, if you remove the profit motive, if you remove shareholder value, guess what you lose, Steve? You lose innovation.
Innovation, yes, and capital investment.
They also want government regulation. There's all these doomsayers that are saying AI is going to eat the planet. It's going to destroy the human race. There's one guy recently who was saying it's going to lead to 10 to 20% unemployment. Let me tell you something. That's what was said about the automobile, that it was going to put carriage houses out of business. And stables would go away. It's like a headline saying when the electric light bulb was invented that the candle making industry is going to evaporate.
Well, there's a term for what you're talking about.
You want to encourage innovation, so we need no government regulation or minimal government regulation, and we have to win the war with China, and I know you're in agreement on that.
Totally. And what you're talking about, there's a term for what you were talking about, which is called Luddites. And Luddites were against machines and tractors and things like that. And of course, as we've had technology, look how it's changed our lives in every possible way. Now, we need to, in my opinion, make sure we beat the Chinese in the AI race. And it sounds like this idea, we're all going to be altruistic. I mean, when has government or a nonprofit organization ever invented anything?
Yeah, exactly. And on the China front, by the way, the key to that is they're developing AI technology, including DeepSeek and others, that is essentially spyware. And I believe very strongly that the Congress and President Trump needs to look very carefully at that, because it's kind of like help me out, Steve, what's the name of the Chinese telecom company? Is it Huawei?
They've got so many of them, Huawei.
You got to make sure that we're not loading Chinese spyware on our phones and on our mobile devices. So that's another thing that the administration's got to look at. The good news is President Trump's instincts on this are outstanding. He understands America's got to be the leader. J.D. Vance gets it because he comes out of that private equity world and he understands innovation. So we just need to support the president and the Trump-Vance administration in doing the right thing.
It is absolutely critical that the United States lead the world in artificial intelligence, AI, and robotics, Ralph. And so I want to work with you to make sure that we do that. And it's going to be happening because we have great companies that do it, not government and not nonprofit organizations, but for-profit companies. The profit motive is the greatest invention ever made, and somehow people think that profit is a bad word. These people in Silicon Valley have made so much profit, now they don't want to make a profit on this.
Well, hundreds of years ago, Adam Smith called it the invisible hand.
Right.
It was the desire for profit that drove innovation, that benefited consumers, created jobs, and grew the economy. And that's, the idea of trashing the profit motive. You do not understand the most basic things about not only markets, but basic macroeconomics.
So true. Well, Ralph, thank you for bringing this to our attention. I want to bring you on in another few weeks so we can have a longer discussion about this. But pay attention, folks. We got to win the race for AI. We'll be right back, folks. This is The More Money Show on WABC.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.